Pax Christi Nigerian Catholics. Now, there's something extraordinary happening in Africa right now, and the world is not paying enough attention. As Pope Leo XIV arrives in Yaoundé, Cameroon, on the second stop of his 11-day African tour, something almost unbelievable happens. Armed separatists, men who have been fighting since 2017, announced a pause in their operations. Not because of any political agreement, and definitely not because of international pressure, but for one reason and one reason alone: to allow Pope Leo XIV travel safely. In a region torn apart by the Anglophone crisis, where English-speaking separatists have been pushing to break away from the French-speaking majority of the Republic of Cameroon, where violence has become part of daily life, everything has slowly stopped. The guns has gone quiet, all because a spiritual leader is visiting the country. Now, this tells you something very powerful here. It tells you that beyond politics, beyond ethnicity, and beyond language, there is still a deep respect for faith. And in Africa, that respect is not theoretical, it is alive. Just imagine the atmosphere. If you have seen the crowds in Cameroon, the singing, the dancing, the overwhelming joy, you will notice something familiar. It feels like history repeating itself, because many Nigerians still remember what happened in 1998 when Pope St. John Paul II visited Nigeria. The energy was electric. People lined the streets for hours. Crowds stretched as far as the eyes could see, and it wasn't just an event, it was an encounter. For many people, it felt like God Himself had visited the country. And today, Cameroon is experiencing that same wave of emotion. You can feel it on the streets, you can feel it everywhere, even at the stadium. The very chasuble that His Holiness Pope Leo XIV wore at the Mass, which was celebrated at the airport in Cameroon, seems to bear some striking resemblance to that which Pope St. John Paul II wore when he visited Nigeria in 1998 for the beatification of Blessed Cyprian Michael Wenitansi. It's that same sense of connection, that same spiritual excitement. Because in Africa, the Pope is not just a global figure, he is a father. But this brings us to a very uncomfortable question. If Africa responds like this, if faith is this strong, if the people are this receptive, why does it seem like Nigeria has been skipped? Since that historic visit in 1998 by Pope St. John Paul II, no pope has returned. Not Pope Benedict XVI, not Pope Francis, and now even Pope Leo XIV is visiting other African nations but not Nigeria. So what's going on? Is Nigeria being ignored, or is there something much deeper? The truth, to be very honest, is very complicated. Papal visits are not random, as some of us would tell if we are very attentive to our history. They are carefully planned, highly strategic, and deeply sensitive. One major factor that is put into consideration, especially as it concerns papal visits to any country, is security. And let's be honest, Nigeria has faced serious challenges in recent years. Terrorism, kidnappings, attacks, even on priests and on churches. The Vatican does not take these risks lightly. A papal visit is not just a religious trip, it's a global event. And ensuring the safety of the Pope, the crowds, and the entire nation becomes a massive concern. But security is only part of the story. And there's much more than that. There is mission. Popes often choose locations where their presence can make the strongest impact. Places where peace is fragile, unity is needed, or the church is facing unique challenges. And that's why you have seen visits in countries like the Central African Republic or South Sudan in recent years. And now, the Holy Father is visiting Cameroon with its ongoing internal conflict. The Pope doesn't just go to where the crowds are loudest, he often goes to where the wounds are deepest. And I know some of you will say Nigeria definitely has deep wounds. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because Nigeria also has deep wounds. But the question becomes, is it about readiness? Is Nigeria truly prepared? Logistically, politically, and securely to host a papal visit of this magnitude? Or are there gaps that still need to be addressed? This moment in Cameroon is a message, a reminder that when a nation creates space, even temporarily, for peace, something powerful can happen. Imagine if that ceasefire wasn't just for 3 days. Imagine if the unity seen on the streets lasted longer than the visit. That is the real significance of what we are witnessing. Because at the end of the day, this is not just about Pope Leo XIV, it's about what he represents. He represents peace, unity, and hope. And in a continent that has faced so many challenges, these three things still have the power to stop conflict, even if only for a moment. So as Cameroon celebrates and as Africa welcomes the Holy Father once again, Nigeria and the rest of us are left with a question that is definitely worth thinking about. Are we ready, not just for a papal visit, but for the kind of peace it demands? So this is hoping that you have gained a thing or two from our short reflection on why it seems popes always skip Nigeria for other African countries. And this is also hoping that perhaps in the nearest future, Nigeria will host a pope. Thank you immensely for watching. Talk to you soon. God bless you.